In tonight's Technology Insider, trouble for Tesla. In August, Consumer Reports called their Model S an automotive milepost that performed better than any other car ever. But they slammed Tesla's latest sedan. Now the company is in the middle of a huge recall. For more, I'm joined by Brian Fung, technology reporter at the Washington Post. Brian, before we get to the recall, tell us about the Tesla Model S. What kind of car is it and what sets it apart?
Sure. Well, the Model S is Tesla's sedan. It's an electric vehicle, meaning that it doesn't take gasoline. Instead, drivers fuel it by connecting it to a power source like an ordinary power outlet in your wall. And what makes Tesla so interesting is that it's pioneering a lot of next-generation automotive technologies. So, for instance, recently it unveiled a so-called autopilot feature that allows drivers to basically set and forget their speed, and then the car will move along on the highway without crossing lanes or crashing into other cars.
All right, then on Friday, the company recalled all 90,000 Model S sedans. What's wrong?
Yeah, so the company found that there's a potential flaw in the seatbelt mechanism, and this was flagged by a European owner of a Tesla Model S. And out of precaution, they decided to recall voluntarily all 90,000 Model S vehicles, and they're asking Model S drivers to take their vehicles to a specialized Tesla service center where they can perform a check and make sure that everything is shipshape.
I've been watching their stock throughout the year. It's up and down. How about this latest recall? Will it have a significant impact on the company's bottom line?
Well, analysts I'm talking to say ultimately, in the grand scheme of things, this is not going to be a big deal for Tesla, mainly because its drivers are incredibly loyal to the company. Although it is important to point out that over the long term, Tesla has been the subject of a lot of skepticism from business analysts who worry about its ability to meet expectations going forward.
Investors are more concerned and interested in the battery technology at this point, too, aren't they?
Yeah, they are, in part because the battery technology is going to be a big signal for not only the future of automation, but potentially things as varied as home energy storage and use, the future of the electric grid, as well as other technologies that have to do with energy. And so it's a big question as to whether or not this battery technology will ultimately be proven correct in the long run if Tesla succeeds.
All right. All right, let's move on to Bitcoin, Brian. You're following a new company called Shift that wants to make that currency more mainstream. Tell us about their new card.
Well, in order to understand what's happening with Shift, you really have to talk about one of the big limitations of Bitcoin, which is that you can't use the virtual currency everywhere. If you're not familiar with Bitcoin, it's a technology that acts as a kind of digital cash, which you can spend on real-world goods and services, but it only exists online. And in order to use Bitcoin so far, people have had to ask the merchant that they're at, "Hey, do you take Bitcoin?" And more often than not, the answer is going to be no. This basically, from Shift, eliminates that question, saying, we will give you a debit card. It's a simple Visa debit card that can work at roughly 38 million locations worldwide, they're saying, and it'll eliminate that question you have to ask of, do you take Bitcoins?
Now, still, you're reporting that the Shift card is only available in 24 regions. There's also plenty of fine print. Should consumers feel comfortable using this card, considering current financial regulations?
Well, what makes this card so interesting is that it's exactly the same as any other debit card you would use that has the Visa logo on it. So, that means that it's a sign that Bitcoin is becoming more closely integrated into the global financial system. And it's also a sign of its increasing maturity. It may be a little early for some early adopters to hop onto the technology, may not be ready for the mainstream regular people to start using this stuff yet, but it's clear that there are efforts to bring Bitcoin into the marketplace, and this is one way that it could happen.
Is Shift constrained or affected by the same regulatory agencies that control my Visa and MasterCard, for example?
Yeah, potentially. I mean, what we're talking about here, as Bitcoin becomes more integrated into the financial system, you have high-profile exchanges, places where you trade Bitcoins for dollars and vice versa, also being subject to a lot of the same regulatory expectations as other what the government calls money transmitters. So, this is something that has been working itself out in regulatory circles for the past year and a half. And in fact, the New York State Department of Financial Services has also been working on regulations for Bitcoin. Bitcoin advocates say a lot more work has to be done on those, but it's a sign of how much work is going into the stuff that New York State is considering regulations.
All right, we'll keep an eye on that. Brian Fung, technology reporter at the Washington Post. Thanks, Brian.
My pleasure.